Welcome everyone. So we're going to do another LinkedIn Live session. So thanks for coming back. And we have some folks with us that might be able to join in on any questions or answers. Today's session, we're continuing to just walk through around Agile leadership. So effectively what I'm doing is just sharing content from the Certified Agile Leadership class. So one, you get an idea of what's in there, which I think is really helpful. But secondarily, I think most importantly for me, and really I think for the coaches, is we believe in it. We think it's helpful when we look at agile transformations, and lots of them are challenged in certain ways. What does it look like to help those? So last session we were looking at the levels of leadership, and we'll come back to those and explore a little bit further. So if you're the type of leader or manager, you're in a leadership role of some sort, what does it look like to try to move out from being the smartest person in the room? People come to you, with questions. They want answers. They want solutions. It's fair, but how do you move to empower them to solve those problems themselves? And really, I think when we talk about that word empowerment, that's one key piece of it. They're figuring those things out themselves. So that's a bit what we talked about last time. Was a very brief overview of what is that three-step model of expert to achiever to catalyst, so you can look at the history for that. Also on our YouTube channel, there's a short video around that, so it's easy to share that as well. I think it's just 3 to 5 minutes. And there's another short video that kind of covers a bit of what we're talking about today, although we have a bit more time that we'll go through it today, 30 minutes versus I think it's about maybe 5 to 7 minutes on the cultural video, but we're going to talk about a couple of pieces that aren't in the video as well. But also this is a live session, so part of the joy for me of doing this is a chance to get to interact with you guys. I know some of you last time from the community, which is, I just love getting to see friends and familiar names again. That's really nice. To get reconnected. But if you have questions, things that come up, or application or stories to share, would love to hear that. So I'll be kind of watching in the chat of that as well. So I'm going to go over to watch that, and I think that's good. Yeah, I'm going to mute that I don't hear that as well. So I'm going to pull that up so I can be watching for questions from you as well. So with that, I'm now going to dive in. I'm going to switch over to, there we go. Now I can see me, and good, it's muted. Okay, so we're good. And I'll be watching also the folks that are helping us on production are catching things as well. So thanks for that, Vince and Cliff. And one of the coaches, Bob, is here as well. All right, so I'm going to dive in and map out what we look at in terms of helping transformations going from it. So I think last count, I didn't catch everyone that that's on the team, but I counted up 16 different transformations that we've been involved with or have helped lead. What we've seen is patterns of not surprising, the same challenges that you would see from the version 1 survey around where do we stall out, where does the transformation effort stall out, or even kind of roll back and go backwards. So for those involved with, you would like to see the transformation successful. Certainly, we have a lot of people show up who they're charged with, lead the agile transformation. They've got kind of like a call, or a mandate, like I need you to lead this effort. Hey, we're going to go agile. That's on you to figure that out. So being wary of like, well, what are the pitfalls we want to avoid? And regardless of whether you're taking a specific framework approach, SAFe or large scale Scrum, Scrum at Scale, Nexus, DAD, I'm not concerned about the framework. I'm concerned about the common patterns of when you lead a change effort, what can take it off track. So lots of times, if I could just be direct with this community, I think that I can. I think we're too quick to jump to a solution, like, hey, we need to go agile, which framework should we use, right? That's very much jumping to the how. But we miss some of the aspects of the why and what that are important. Think about the common user stories, right? I don't want to just go to requirements. I want to go to who are we doing this for? What's the value that they're trying to get out? And that's really what we're kind of dropping down onto what the transformation is. What's the purpose behind this? What are we trying to achieve? And then when you look at the how, when you're trying to bring that in, it's gonna make more sense. It's gonna resonate, and it's gonna stick and last and be successful. There's a lot of effort that goes into these transformations. It's not just we need to get people trained up, which I think you should. I think that's good. We need outside coaches to come and help us, although I think that that's good, right? I think what you realize is this investment is about you're changing things on everybody, right? They used to know the intake process for new requests that come in. They used to know how decisions got made. They used to know how the people work together, maybe not even on teams, right? We knew about launching new efforts and initiatives and budgeting for projects. That's how we got things done. You suddenly change the rules on a whole lot of people, and it flips the script on them. And by and large, people don't love that. They don't love going through a lot of change and not knowing what's next or what does their role look like now or tell me how to. And human nature is to kind of resist that. So that to me is the bigger expense of when you unsettle things that much and it doesn't go well. It's not even like, oops, that wasn't the best approach. We're now going to use approach Z starting Monday. No, you're going to not talk about Agile for a while. You're gonna do a bit of PR and damage control and know we really know what we're doing, etc. Right? At times I've seen companies lose months, 3 months, 9 months, a year or more before they can really revisit this idea of we're going to go Agile. That's what I don't want. That's what I don't want for you. That's what I don't want for those team members. That's what I don't want for the company, people expecting results, right? So let's take a look at getting beyond just the how. Tell me which approach we should use, what scaling framework we should use, etc. Let's talk about what I think is meaningful and matter. If you look at the top issues that have come up from the version 1 survey, I imagine some of you are familiar with that. 7 of the top 10 reasons are management and culture related. So last session we talked about management, and there's a lot more there. Now we're going to talk about culture. In the end, you come in saying what's going to work for our culture, and that's what we want to pay attention to. The famous saying of culture eats strategy for breakfast is true, right? So if something doesn't fit, I don't care that's the best idea or someone figured out the best way to roll out Agile here, and here's what we're going to do. Your culture could undo the best of ideas. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to switch screens. We're going to hop over and I'm going to try to draw a few things up and try to track. And I'm looking in the check in case there's any comments or questions. I don't see any, so I think that we're good for now. All right, so let me switch and I'm going to draw something up for us. Hopefully you guys see a nice white screen now. For some of you, you might have already gone through this and you're familiar with this, or it could serve as a refresher. So for those that's new, I want to make sure we take the time. Now, we do get to walk through this a bit more in the class. I think it's easier to kind of put our hands around. Just drawing it up is a little, it's great, but it's not quite the same experience. So if you wanted it hands-on, right, that's where we would do that. So I'm going to drop just this basic, I don't want it in red. So I'm going to drop this basic in the right color. Here we go. Make it black. Basic grid. And if we looked at the folks in your organization and kind of said, hey, how do you tick? What makes you work? What's the appealing part of your work? You're going to see some interesting things here. Number one, people might come in and say, I love working here because when I'm doing my work, every voice matters. Or maybe they say, like, I love working here. It's really like, there's our exclamation point. They're very excited. It's really like family here. And that's what's appealing to them. So this kind of culture, folks that like the relationships that they have and making sure everyone's heard, etc. That's what we'd call a collaborate culture. So if I came in and as I heard one leader say, because I say, I don't think the people are going to like that. And the leader says, like, well, people don't like that. That's just collateral damage. Well, if I brought in someone on your team that's the way they thought, like, oh, if they don't like it, they can lump it. You'd probably step back and say, Joe, I don't think this person's working out here, right? This new hire, I don't think they're a fit. And by fit, you mean they don't kind of work the way we work around here. And you might even say, I don't think they get it. That's not how you get things done around here. If you want to be effective, you need to, right? Think about in that terms if you look around. So let's move over to the right. I can see this is a little bit, I'm going to see if I can't move it. There we go, a little bit better for us. So maybe we have folks who they love working at your organization because it's chock full. I think I can say chock full of ideas, new thinking. They're doing something new here and that's exciting. Or maybe the organization keeps talking about, innovation is one of our core values. We want to innovate, awesome. That kind of culture is what we call a create culture. Those that kind of never been done before is exciting. Doesn't bother them. That's kind of where they live. Let's drop down to the bottom. You might have a culture where it's all about results, getting things done. You could even say, what have you done for me lately? or at some companies, what they would call a meritocracy. Right? If you get stuff done, if you delivered, you get promoted. There's a company I know down in Irvine, wonderfully smart people who got things done, and if you were smart and you got things done, you got rewarded, you got recognized, just no doubt. And if you didn't, you can kind of hang out, but in some ways you always felt a little uncomfortable because everyone's just crushing work and doing all this stuff that you're like, I think I'm going to go take a different type of a job in another company where it's not such expectations that we're just destroying work around here. That would definitely be that kind of a company. And last, sorry, let me label that one for us. And I realize it's a little bit there. I can shrink it a little bit there. That kind of culture would be what we call a compete culture. And then last, the folks who really like, hey, I'm all for that. I hear you talking about that. What's the plan? Or maybe I'm afraid something can go with wrong. Do we detail everything out because I am risk averse? And this would be your control culture. So, and then let me put some colors on because we'll start just kind of referring to them this way in general. So get the right brush. There we go. So collaborate culture, we usually refer to as the yellow culture. The create culture, referred to as the green. The compete culture, getting things done, getting results, that's our blue. And then last, our control. Oops. The control group, that was unscripted and unplanned, is our red group. So I might just refer to them as yellow, green, blue, and red. So just doing this is probably interesting, and you could say, well, yeah, we've done personality assessments, profiles, that type of the tools, DISC and StrengthsFinder and Enneagram, all that. And I think those are great. And you can just look and say, yeah, we could run an exercise where people, as we do in our exercises, is they grab little cards with their name on it. It could be on mural, could be in person, but they're grabbing someone that says, this is me. And we literally step in different corners of the room and kind of walk through, like, share with us about how you're wired, etc. And then we talk about that dynamic of who they are and then kind of contrast it with the other groups. That's all good. But really what we're after is this part of the tension. On one hand this is called the competing values framework. I'll put this right in here in the middle. Competing values framework. And we say competing values because, shockingly, they're competing. So let's look at that issue about the collaborate culture versus the compete culture. Come across here. So what's at tension between the collaborate and the compete culture is the speed that we're moving at. Because if I'm going to go and, I'll fix this a little bit. If I'm going to go and make a decision, like management says, can we get this feature changed and not let the date slip? What do you think? And you might say, well, I'd like to go and get some people's opinion or input. Your boss or the leader might say, we don't got that kind of time. We don't have that luxury. I need a decision by the end of the day. I need to let the customer or the client know. Well, yeah, so I either get it done really fast or I actually take people's input and decide. And there's a balance there because I know hearing everyone's opinion is important. And maybe the situation we don't have that. So I'm trying to balance that out. As much as we might say, and here's where I see companies kind of run into an issue where they say, we're going to go agile because that, and let's be honest, who knows why? It might be they think it's going to double productivity or employee engagement's going to skyrocket. They're going to have ideas. The challenge is we don't ask very often, what does management and leadership expect from agile? Why are they kicking this off? Or maybe they're just kicking off because everyone else is agile, so we better be agile too. They're going to go and say, let's go agile. Those in the know, my friends who might be actually listening in right now, you're already interested in agile. You love what it's done. A lot of what I hear is, we love how that engages people and folds them in. And I love this collaborative, like, we do retros and everyone shares and we have like open space events where everyone's coming up with their own ideas about what we're going to tackle. And everyone votes in planning poker because I want to hear the different voices and opinions. That's all wonderfully collaborative. But if I'm doing all that, how fast am I going? I might actually drop down a bit. So, or was one leader said they knew they had to slow down to speed up. I want everyone's input, but that's at a cost. Now, in the end, I hope that because of all the input, we're making better decisions. We're figuring out what the right product is sooner. It's no longer like loudest voice wins on the design approach. Everyone weighed in, so now they're more bought in, and we're making it happen. We're getting things done. That's great, but that doesn't happen tomorrow. Right? So all this investment of time, if you're not good about watching over, are we really delivering these results? Like back down here, for the folks here in Compete, if we're not delivering results for a leadership group that's commonly quite blue, that's when they're like, this isn't working, this is taking too long. Because yes, we're heavily investing in unfolding everyone's opinion on, they're not seeing the results, the tangible results of that yet. And for me, that's a speed of, they expected we're going agile, I'm going to start seeing these improvements soon. And yet you've actually moved the other direction where we're folding everyone's voices in. You're like, I followed the script. I don't get it. They said, take it to the team and all the stuff in the Certified Scrum Master class. And it's not going well. Management's unhappy. And I don't know why. We're doing Agile right. It's not about doing Agile right. It's about you slow down. They still expect certain results. So we're trying to follow that balance. So keep in mind their intention. I'm not saying it's one or the other, but you're at least aware that there's a tension. Let's look at the other side. Between create and control. And really at this tension, what we're talking about is the magnitude of the change. Let's just take the example of going agile. Okay, we're going to go agile. I'm gonna reckon a guess that maybe the PMO is a part of that conversation, or wants to be, or is leading that conversation, or certainly project managers. What's my role now? Do we still do projects? What's a Scrum Master? All these things come up, right? So they're kind of in control of here's how we get things done around here, or they had been up to this point. Whether you change that or not is not my concern. I don't think there's a right answer. I'm just saying there's a group that's all about we manage risk and we plan out things, and I can tell you exactly when that project's going to be done. Whether that project really got done that day, I'm not going to go there. I'm saying they made a plan that says this is going to happen by these dates. These people are going to be doing these things. Like they've got it all figured out. And now you say we're going to roll out Agile, and like, okay, so tell us how to do Agile. And you respond with something like, I don't know, it's brand new. We get to see what's going to work around here, and we're going to run experiments and try things out. And there's lots of different ways. There's no one right way. How does the control group respond to that? Like, well, one, you're crazy. Two, like, I don't want to just start off with, we have no idea. Give me a plan. Let's start there. So they might be all for Agile, but do it in a controlled, structured way that we know what's going on. Not get everyone in a room and just ask them what they think, right? That's kind of scary for folks who want to know the plan. So they might kind of pull back on what Agile could be, because they'd rather play it safe with a known way, a known approach that they understand and can plan out, versus complete unknown. So you're feeling this tension, not just between, in this case, ways that we're wired. I think you're going to start feeling tension between groups, because what color would PMO folks, or the PMO in general, normally be? I would expect control, partly because management tasks them with that. Make sure our projects are under control. Make sure we're predictable in what we say we can do. Right? That's part of their role and responsibility up to this point. So you're pulling in a group to kind of create some brand new way of Agile, which the truth is there's not a right way. Every company and culture is different, and you're somewhere in a journey. That red group's going to totally innovate and do something brand new? Or will they take our current approach, iterate a little bit, make some changes, some adjustments, and say, right, I think we've rolled out, at least in their mind, Agile or version 1 of that, right? So you're feeling that tension of how much can we really change? And there's a balance there and that kind of a tension as well. So last thing I'll just make a note of, and then we'll begin going if there's any questions or comments on that. I'm double checking again to make sure I'm not missing anyone. I don't see that I am. So is really now that we have this idea of the tension, I would go back to your company and say, well, where do you think you sit? In this map, where does your company lie? And what we like to do is we just mark out, almost like back in school, doing basic graphing, right? Going out, you remember, like in the center is 0 and going further out are higher numbers. That is, we're stronger up here, and weaker down here. Or you wouldn't see that aspect of that culture as much. Right? I don't want to use weaker in a negative sense. So we might be in so I'm trying to think of a couple of companies that we've worked at let's take a medical device company. I'm hoping, cross my fingers, that the folks building medical devices are pretty good about like exacting standards, and we're doing it the right way, and it's absolutely repeatable processes and structure. I would say that they have a whole lot of people down here making sure that we're building these things, and we've got a large partner network and supply chain, that type of stuff. So they're going to be heavy down there, right? Those are all the people. There's an actual person. Yeah, they're there. So I would actually say, if I was to plot this, I'm going to remove those right now, but I'm trying to represent people that come in. I plot them, further out here. X marks the spot, so to speak. There we go. And maybe they're decently collaborative. They do talk some, right? But we're kind of siloed in groups, and these are our responsibilities. Why? Because the structure of the organization, this culture says, hey, in terms of partner channels, we really care about doing that right. So we put someone in charge of partner networks, and they manage all. So we could have silos just by nature of, I want to make sure things are in control. We commonly say, if I want control of that, I'm going to put someone in a position of authority. I want a name in the blank of who's responsible for that. And I think that the more roles you have, the less responsibility. If they're responsible for partner networks, ergo I'm not responsible for partner networks. I noticed something was totally falling off the plate, so to speak, but not my area of concern. That's a bummer, but I did see that coming. I'm not weighing in because I'm not responsible for that. So that's what I'm kind of saying. You might say a collaborative, but your structures kind of get in the way of collaboration. So they're not strong. Definitely the tension, if the tension plays out true between create folks and our control folks, then I'm going to say my guess would be they're not as innovative. And what I hear very commonly from a lot of these organizations who are right now 20 years into Agile, they're late adopters. What prevented them from going Agile earlier? I'm going to stretch a guess that they're high in control. So now here they are, and because they're kind of late to the game in a competitive marketplace, that we are very much in a very hyper competitive marketplace, they're probably feeling like we need more innovation. We need new ideas, right? Startups are everywhere. Technology, Internet of Things, machine learning, AI, cloud, you name it. Someone's beating them to the punch in some way because they're a brand new startup. Anything goes because they don't have all this history, and they also don't have like legacy systems and legacy code and legacy policies and all that stuff to hold them down. They're just off to the races, right? So I'm going to guess that they're late on innovation. I hear that a lot from these larger companies. We need to innovate more, right? And then compete. Are we getting the results? Well, maybe part of going Agile is the results haven't really been there as much as we would want them to be. If everything's going great, why bother going Agile? Keep doing what you're doing. So I would map this out. So if I'm in your shoes, I'm going to change the color a little bit so it sticks out differently. I'm going to find a color we're not using. I'll make it obnoxiously bright, but that way we'll see it. So there we go. So in this case, I would map them out and connect these dots and say, this is your culture. And really the question is, which is good. One, wonderful that you know your culture. I think this makes culture the easiest to put our hands around and simplifies it. And you could put this drawing up in front of others like, yeah, I get it. Or you could, like I said, literally get people in a room or in a mural board room and have them go to different areas that we just mapped out. They just take their icon and drag it up there. You could see their culture, and you see what's kind of at tension that you might realize like, oh, that's why we're having some of these challenges. So one, that's wonderful. And the last thing is really, so in a fast-changing marketplace like we've talked about with VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and all that, are you okay with where you're at? Is leadership very confident that we're on track and everything's going great? There are no challenges in front of us that we can't easily, and I don't mean like the Pollyanna thing, like we can tackle any challenge. I mean, they're comfortable. They're not sweating it. My guess is there's anxiety about some of these things, either the startups around you or the pace of change or technology, et cetera, that they're concerned about. If you ask senior executives, what we currently have adequate for the future? 56% say no. So more than half are like, who we are now is not who we need to be or equipped to tackle the challenges within 1 to 2 years. So who do you need to be to tackle those challenges is the question that you could now answer with this board. And that is, what's our to-be culture? Let's see if we can't find a nice teal color to set this apart clearly. So your to-be Or let me make it in the same way. Maybe you look and say, yeah, absolutely, Scott. When you said innovation, boy, I'm hearing that all the time. I'm going to say we need to move there. Right, this is our to be culture. And yeah, management doesn't think we're getting the results, so it's not so bad as that. But I know we need to move it out some. And the truth is, I think we're overly bureaucratic. I think there's too many processes and policies in place. We need to ease up on that some. We got to move faster, get more ideas flowing. So let's tail that in. And, the truth is, we say we collaborate, but does everyone really share in the meetings? Does the best idea win, or do people hold back? Yeah, I think there's still some CYA holding back going on. We need more authenticity, openness, honesty, like radical candor going on. So now, this to me would be your to be culture. And pop back to the bright color, saying this is what we need to be to compete in the future marketplace. Now that you know this, the secret sauce for me is, well, let's go back to the original question. Hey, Scott, we've got to go agile, though. You still haven't asked my question. You say, like, don't just grab a framework that someone else has used or whatever. Like, you say be mindful of culture, but you still haven't said, what do we do then? Well, now I look, and I would just take it to your team or to others. And lots of ways, bring in a coach. You can have lots of different conversations. I would look back and say, all right, so our biggest challenge in front of us is tackling, this gap right here. I'll draw it up. This gap right here is the biggest move we need to make. So according to this arrow, I would ask you, what agile things would get you more innovation? Now, you might not know it all, but in the class we actually have a whole sample set of ideas you could start with, but let me just give you a few of them. Hackathons. You probably heard of hackathons. Yeah, I heard that's a thing. If you're agile, you're doing that, but we're not doing it. Or whatever. It's not whether it's agile or not. Is it a thing you can do that would get you more innovation? That you'd give your teams 24 hours, come up with whatever you want, form teams the way you want, but whatever it is, you got to show it off in 24 hours. So if we kick it off Friday morning and a demo on Monday morning, you will get new ideas. So that's a structure that you could take on. Like, we just do hackathons once a quarter. Or our policy is you can work on whatever you want during those 24 hours, right? And we give you X amount of money to spend if you feel like it, right? So now it's an agile thing you've heard about. It's agile for a means to an end, not just agile for agile's sake. And secondly, agile that works to move the needle the way we want, right? I understand our current culture, and I'm mapping it something that I'm clearly saying, I know we currently handle things this way. We're introducing a new idea because we want to get here. Now you've got the why behind what we're doing with agile. How many times I've heard people say, I don't know why we're going agile. I don't know why we need to do daily stand-ups. I don't know why we're not using Kanban. I don't know why they're not doing, lean UX. Yeah, there's lots of things, and you're left feeling like, I don't know either, and I don't. Now you're like, we're doing it because of this. It moves the needle this way. And if you have other ideas that move the needle that way, happy to try them out. Oh, a working agreement that the team gets to choose one of their own idea stories each sprint if they get the current sprint commitment done. Hey, why not try that? That's going to move you towards innovation. Is it right or wrong? It's right to get you there. Should another team do it that doesn't have that challenge? No. I don't want to copy and paste what other people are doing. Certainly don't want to copy and paste without knowledge, as Craig Larman says. So this gets you out of that kind of a bind. It gives you guidance and steps. It gets you everyone's input on what those things could be, and you kind of keep iterating and going through with it. That's why I think the competing values framework helps you see your culture, helps us see the tension you might feel between certain groups, and then helps you map out who do we need to become to compete in the future marketplace, which means if we do these things and that's our new culture, it will last, because statistically these changes don't last, they get resistance. And it gives you kind of at least an idea of a template to say what things should we do to go agile, and start from there. I will be, shoot straight with you guys. The trade-off is, how much do you know of all those agile practices? So, because if you really like, I don't know, I'm new to agile and now I'm being asked to do this, or I'm new to agile and I don't know if we're doing it right. It doesn't seem like we are, but what do I know? There's no gas in the tank to turn this engine over. So yeah, you need to get outside input or something else. So you can certainly take the training classes. You can get an outside coach. But if you join us for one of our upcoming sessions, we'll talk about Path to Agility. Path to Agility is an approach that is, one, we talk about culture. Now we talk about business goals. And based on what the leaders expect from Agile, there is a set of best practices that you could start with and say, at least put you in the starting blocks to get you going and then iterate from there. So it's not overly prescriptive. It's just, here's some guidance. If you guys vote up that you want to try those things out, you can follow the guidance or not, right? So I like it for that. So I think it complements the culture aspect really well. So stay tuned. Be on the lookout for that on Path to Agility. This right here was just our session on making sure that the Agile adoption works for your culture. using the competing values framework. If you have any questions, let us know or follow up in the chat thread. We'd be glad to jump in on those. But for right now, I'll sign off for now, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the future. Thanks, everyone. And thanks also to all the help making this happen. So look forward to seeing you guys in the future.